Hey guys, welcome to my garden. Today we are going to take another mindful walk. This will also double as a flower garden tour, and we are also going to take a peek at the vegetable garden toward the end of the video. If you didn't catch my first couple of videos about mindfulness and how you can use mindfulness in the garden, I will link those below. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get started. So when you're going to take a mindful walk, it's good to just sort of set the intention that when I'm going on this walk, I'm really going to focus on what I'm observing in the moment, using my senses, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm smelling, what I'm maybe tasting, what I'm touching. And sort of allowing yourself to not worry about those things that, have happened earlier in the day or things that you're worried about potentially happening in the future. I think now more than ever, it's really important for us to take time to get out into nature and, again, whether it's your own garden or a park or some other green space near you, and just sort of take some time for yourself, give your brain a rest, and just sort of take in what's going on in the moment. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna come take a look at the herb garden. The chives are popping. We have a few different chive plants around. They grow like crazy, and then I have to divide them, and I just pop them in different places around the yard. Pollinators love the flowers. They smell really good, and it's nice to be able to come out and take some for eggs in the morning or baked potato or however you want to use them. I also have this random iris that just kind of popped up within the last week. There was a huge clump of irises over here that I divided last year, and it looks like I forgot one. Got oregano, sage, everything's coming back really nicely. Cilantro, some parsley. The hostas are starting to fill out and look really nice too. There's some bleeding heart back there. It just rained about 15 minutes ago, so some of the plants are looking a little droopy right now just because they got rained on, but otherwise things are looking pretty good. The heuchera are getting ready to bloom. And my favorite thing about heuchera, I know most people plant them for the foliage and as a good shade perennial, but I actually really love the blooms because they attract hummingbirds. So I'm excited for these to bloom because I always see hummingbirds at these flowers. We have more chives. I also recently planted a bunch of perennials, so as we go around I'll show you what I picked up. So I planted these lobelia. This was part of a huge plant purchase I made at the beginning of spring. So I'm really excited for these. I try to buy as many native perennials as I can, or cultivars of native perennials. Here's another one. Because I really want to do the best I can do to bring back some of the native habitat and do good for pollinators and biodiversity and all that good stuff. I also planted this bee balm called raspberry wine. I have 3 of those. One there, one there, and one there. These are all irises, lilies, and phlox pretty much, so it'll be a while before any of these bloom. I love this hosta. I'm not sure what it's called, but it has really interesting leaves and a really interesting color. This was here when we moved in. It's not your typical hosta. I also have a lot of weeds in here. I do not break my back trying to get every single weed out of a bed. I weed here and there just to make sure that stuff isn't completely taking over. But I also want to actually enjoy my garden, so I don't mind some weeds. They don't take away the beauty of the garden for me, so I'm okay with leaving some here and there. Look at these bleeding heart. I love the way these just hang. The rain looks really pretty on the leaves too. We have a lot of hostas, as you will notice as we go through. More heuchera. Another huge hosta. All of these hosta were here when we moved in. And they look amazing. This is a really shaded area of the garden. It's right under a maple tree. And these 2 smaller trees. I have not been able to identify these trees yet. So if you guys know what they are, please let me know. I was thinking maybe some kind of a dogwood, but then I couldn't find a picture that looked super similar, but they're flowering. And they have this really interesting shape, sort of like umbrellas. So if you know what they are, let me know. Bluebells are blooming. These were bulbs that I purchased from Color Blends last fall. Planted these up in the fall, and they just started to bloom the last couple of days. really nice. They sort of glow in this really shady area. It's really pretty. If you're looking for a nice flowering shade plant, I would recommend these. The birds are going crazy again. I don't know if you can hear all the songs and the chirping. Look at all of these hostas. They're huge. If you're looking for a really good ground cover, this is wild ginger. This is native to North America. It is a perennial. It comes back every single year. It's good in the shade. It's good in part sun. And it has these are interesting too, these little flowers. But these are really nice because they spread out and they look really full. So if you need a ground cover, I recommend those. I also have this random Columbine plant that popped up out of nowhere. There's no other Columbine around it. I did not plant this, so I have no idea where it came from, but this is also a native in North America, so I'm happy to have it in the garden. I'm just gonna let it seed itself, and hopefully I'll get more. These flowers also hang. Almost look like earrings. Please ignore the muddy hands, by the way. This is just a constant when you're in the garden. A patch of trillium was blooming. It's a really cool, deep maroon color flower. And I wonder if the person who lived here before was a hosta collector or enthusiast of some sort. So there are just so many different varieties. Lots of different colors and textures and sizes. It's another huge one. Our apple tree leafing out. More hostas up by the front gate. And here's my front, one of my front flower beds. Nothing's really blooming in here yet, but things are growing very quickly. Here's another perennial that I planted this spring. It's an oriental poppy, Princess Victoria Louise. I don't know if you can tell, they're supposed to be pink. So I thought that would be really cool. No buds yet. I also added some tick seed, which is another native. This is a cultivar of the native tick seed that we have. I also discovered that we have milkweed popping up everywhere, which is exciting, but at the same time, I'm not sure what I'm going to do because I don't want it to crowd out the flowers in my specific beds, but I do want milkweed because the monarchs need milkweed desperately. So when I find it popping up in a place that I don't want it, I've been trying to dig it up and transplant it to this front bed up here by the road. That is a full sun bed and it's full of taller flowers, so I thought that would be a perfect place for the milkweed to just go crazy. It can do what it wants to in that bed, but I don't necessarily want it in these beds. I mean, this is popping up. It's even crossed the path and started popping up on the other side. That's milkweed, that's milkweed, that's milkweed, that's milkweed. So it likes it here. I just have to figure out where to put it all. So we could take care of the butterflies, but also not take over all of my flower beds. Here's another bleeding heart, but this is a white one. It's really pretty. I also planted another heuchera in here, and I planted this before the bleeding heart really leafed out, so I didn't realize it was going to be this big this year. So I might have to dig up and move that heuchera out a little bit farther. We have some Columbine. Stuff's looking really green. Just waiting for it to bloom. Some creeping phlox. This is a rose was like a $10 clearance rose, so it's looking really good. It's getting bigger than it was last year, so I'm excited about that. I have a lot of cone flowers in this bed. And then I also planted some little zinnia seedlings, so just waiting on those. Go check out the other side of the yard. Apple trees are looking good. Still small. tomatoes getting big. This is a salvia. I don't remember what variety, but that's getting ready to bloom. So are these painted daisies. And the catmint. It's a little bit noisier up here by the road. This is called Thrift. I thought it was interesting because it looks almost like a clump of grass, but then it has these pretty flower blooms on it. Soil so that we can even out our lawn and plant more grass. So this is where I transplanted some milkweed. I'm also going to try to plant up some zinnia and sunflowers in here. I mean, this is just a hodgepodge of phlox. What else is in here? Purple loosestrife is in here, which is not great because I believe it's an invasive plant in our area. So I'm trying to get rid of some of that and put some other stuff in here. Also, you know, weeds. I'll show you our raspberry bushes. These are looking really good and they're blooming. So it won't be long before we get some raspberries. That's exciting. There's some strawberries in here too. All right, let's go look at the veggie garden. This is our newest bed. My husband built this spring. So this is going to be our squash and corn bed. So we planted several rows of corn on this side, and then we planted up acorn squash, butternut squash, zucchini, and we have a couple of melons in here too. I do not remember the variety of those. This bed's turning out to be a little bit of a dud. We planted potatoes. Then we got a massive amount of rain. So this whole garden was flooded. There was standing water for a couple of days. So we're thinking that the potato starts may have rotted, but you know, a couple have popped up. So we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna pause and take the covers off so we can check out these other beds. All right, here we go. So we've got baby broccolis. So these are not the giant heads of broccoli that you find at the grocery store. These are called mini broccoli or broccolini. And what they do is they form these nice little heads of broccoli, and they're cut and come again. So you cut off when it's ready, and then more will start to sprout. So we have two different varieties. You could tell the head on this one, the blooms are a little bit bigger or looser than these. These are a little bit tighter. We made some really good pasta with roasted broccoli and garlic and olive oil last night. It was really good. And then we're trying to grow some cabbage. We tried to grow cabbage last year. We were not successful. I think last year we did not plant early enough. So this year we planted super early. We actually have a video of when we planted up all this stuff. So hopefully we'll get some cabbage this year. They're starting. Got some little heads in there. I can't even imagine how good garden cabbage tastes. I love it from the grocery store, so it can only be better from the garden. All right. And then we've got our greens. We've got carrots, beets, which still aren't quite ready. They're getting there. Got an oak leaf lettuce. We've got romaine lettuce. Red Russian kale, an Italian variety of kale, and pak choi, which is our experiment this year. There's also holes everywhere because we have flea beetles. But that's fine. Everything's still edible and good. So yeah, the leafy stuff, or the cool weather stuff's looking really good. And then we've got 2 beds of tomatoes, peppers, and what else do we have in here? Tomatillos. We have a tomatillo plant. Another issue we're having is that because we had all of that rain, our tomatoes, we believe, have early blight. We always deal with summer blight or late blight. This is our first time dealing with blight this early in the season, so we're thinking because it was kind of cool and really wet that's what happened. So I don't know what's gonna happen with our tomatoes. We're trying to wait and see. These don't look good at all. I don't think these are gonna make it. These tomatoes, these are bush tomatoes. They look okay, but our indeterminate tomatoes aren't looking so good. So we might have to just sacrifice them, pull them up, and go to the garden center and get some more. Which is a bummer because you put all the time into growing them from seed, and then, stuff happens, but it's all good. It's all part of the garden experience. Peppers are still looking okay. These are all sweet peppers. Actually, no. These might be cayenne peppers. But we also have sweet peppers in here. So that's pretty much it for our mindful walk. I hope this inspires you to get out into your own green space and just take a moment to clear your mind and focus on what's going on in the present. If you have any questions about our garden, flowers, or vegetables, please comment below. I will also put a link to my Instagram. I post a ton of pictures of the garden on there. I also post ideas for meals using garden vegetables. So if you're looking for some ideas for what to do after you grow the vegetables, you can check that out. Otherwise, hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you next time.